Okay, everybody, let's talk about AI and virtue. Arturo, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
I'm Arturo. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm the CEO of Clutch Interactive. It's a game studio company. We started in virtual reality with music rhythm games, and now we've expanded to things like Nintendo Switch and mobile and other platforms like Steam and PC. So we're full on game studio. We're all over the world. There's 50 of us. And I've been in sort of working in technology since I started my career. Like the company's been around since 2007. So, but I'm also a practicing Catholic, and I go to traditional Latin Mass, which is where you and I met. So it's an interesting junction of two different lifestyles, perhaps.
Yeah. So, AI and Catholicism, AI and virtue. AI is really hot right now. Everybody's talking about it. It's getting pushed into like every single platform there is. So, what's your opinion? What's your take on AI?
Yeah, I mean, I always say about AI right now that there's at least in technology, even in technology circles, right? The AI has been known to have generated a lot of excitement, but also generate a lot of fear. There's a lot of like, especially in tech, I think surprisingly, software engineering, not surprising anymore, but I don't think we foresaw that that was going to be the first clear room for AI to sort of take over and optimize for. So technology is going through a lot of layoffs, and the game industry, which is I'm in that subsegment of technology, is also going through a lot of layoffs. And there's like a double whammy due to the AI efficiency, the call for efficiency with AI, and then as far as also the game industry kind of not having been in good shape to begin with in the last couple of years. So there's a lot of hesitancy, and people are excited about what it can do, but also hesitant. There's a lot of threat and there's a lot of job displacement. But there's also all sorts of other issues going on with AI, with like data centers and what it means for energy, and just the overall worldview around AI and what it means to humanity. And so I actually really like, there's this gentleman that I follow for over 10 years. His name is Tristan Harris. So Tristan Harris. He created an organization called the Center for Humane Technology.
Hmm.
And he was known for speaking against social media, and he was the guy that blew the whistle on the negative consequences of social media, and he made that pretty popular. I think he single-handedly made that sort of reality pretty known. So he's been at it for a while, but he comes from having sold a company to Google, from being a product designer himself, from being on the inside. So he knows how these things work. He has extensive training. And now he's into the AI subject matter. That's what he's speaking a lot about. And he plainly says that the people in charge are primarily anti-human.
Wow. Yes.
Those are his statements.
Okay.
And so he's blowing the whistle there again, and he mainly talks about how the economic incentives are not there for the system to be pro-human. So he clarifies that he's not anti-AI, but he is anti how AI is happening at a human level right now. And he believes that we need to step in as voters while we still can, and kind of regulate or tone this down because it's going in a place where it is anti-human. So I really like his point of view and what he brings to the table, but I also really like the tools, right? And there's this distinction of sort of having an opinion or being aware that where AI is driven by people, and then there's something to be discussed and corrected there. But then there's the tools themselves. And I think in Catholicism in general, when it comes to technology, there's a lot of anti-technology or just moving away from technology or being in fear of technology and things like that. And I think that's the wrong attitude, right? We should definitely embrace the tools, but understand where in the hierarchy the tools belong.
Okay. Yeah. So understanding this as a tool and then also understanding how to use it as a tool
Yeah,
as
yeah,
opposed to being used by it.
Correct.
which basically means being used by the people who are anti-human.
That's right. That's right. And there's no like technology right now is economic power, is power in general in our society, and to avoid it is I don't think it's a Catholic spirit because we're universal, and retreating or denying its existence or its utility or its usefulness. I think we're missing a lot by that attitude.
Yeah. And I wonder, what is it that makes people uh, fearful about AI? Or maybe we could even say, what makes Catholics scared about AI? I don't think it's just that it's replacing jobs,
Mhm.
because when they invented the tractor, the tractor replaced jobs, right?
Yeah.
When they invented whatever, the
Industrial
table
revolution
saw,
in general. Yeah.
you cut things faster. I like to say that it seems like whenever we gain a technology, we lose a skill.
Mm,
Well, actually, I should preface that by saying a technology isn't a bad thing. A technology is a good thing because it helps us to do things.
mm,
But it seems like whenever we do gain a technology, then we lose a skill that we had to have before. We might have to learn new skills, right? So, like when they invented the chainsaw, we didn't have to cut trees down with axes anymore. So we kind of lost that skill to cut down a tree with an axe, but we gained a technology so we cut trees down faster. So we have to like figure out, okay, when we're talking about good and bad, what are we even talking about here? And that's why I think that this is kind of like an ethical problem. And by ethical, I don't mean like situation ethics or modern ethics. I mean ethics as, Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas formulated it. Ethics, the science of happiness, that we as humans, we're something in particular, we have a nature. And if we have a nature and we can know it, then we can see that we have a purpose. And if we know what that is, then we can see that we have a goal that we're trying to reach, call it human flourishing, call it happiness. And there are some actions that we can take, or actions we can perform, which will take us to that goal. And we call those good actions. And then other actions which take us away from it. And so I think if we see AI as a tool, right? Well, okay, how can this tool help me to get to my ultimate goal of happiness, human flourishing?
that's right.
And then if I can use it that way, then it's a good tool.
That's
But
right.
if I use it in a way that takes me away from that, then it would be bad, or it would be a bad tool. So I think like it's not the AI that's good or bad, it's how we use it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I think that's true of all technology. But it is worth acknowledging that society is in a place where I think that's what's baked into the hesitancy, right? Like if we had a healthy society, if we had a healthy state, and even inside the church, right? Like I think we'd see these technologies with a different lens, and we'd also have experts that would sort of look at the technology and curate it on our behalf, right? There'd be some sort of purification system that would be scholastic or Thomistic at nature, and all that would be okay. But we're not in that society. So I think we're already on the edge, and we're fighting with something that it's the hierarchy saying, and technology is like not only we put man is no longer under God in society, but now it seems like technology is going above man, right? Like we're defined technology, and I think because of that order, um, when you look at something like AI, which is intelligence, and cogitation, at a very radical way, right? Like AI can problem solve in seconds what takes a human mind a lot more. When you look at that in action, it's scary in itself, but it's also because of where we are in the societal hierarchy of things.
Yeah, so would you say that the scariness stems from the fact that this is a very powerful thing?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Kind of like, right. So we don't have to say, well, AI is bad. No, well, no, it's just technology, right? It depends on how we use it. But I'm right there ready to say that it's not inherently bad, but I would say it's inherently dangerous.
hmm hmm
Kind of like something like a chainsaw,
yeah,
which isn't bad, right? It's a tool for using something, but it is inherently by it, by the
Dangerous.
way it functions, it is a dangerous thing. And so we have to have, I think we have to have rules for how we use a chainsaw. Or think of, guns, right? Guns aren't bad. They're tools for using. Yeah, we do things with them. But we can use them badly or we can use them well. But because they're inherently dangerous, we have to have rules for, how we use them. So we have everybody who has ever learned properly how to use a gun, they've learned the safety rules, right? Keep your finger off the trigger, keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction, treat every gun as if it's loaded, right? Because the risk is so high, we have to have these rules that are going to be proportionate to the risk.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting what you were saying about if we lived in a healthy society, we would have like I don't know, an organization of people to like review technology and then suggest how it ought to be used.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
what do you think about like some rules for AI? I kind of think we have to have some kind of rules for ourselves and
Mhm.
for society to so we can kind of check on each other. I mean, think of like remember back in the day when there was a rule like no reading books at the table?
Right.
And like everybody knew that. Well, why shouldn't you read a book at the table? Because at the table you're supposed to be interacting with the people in your family. But
Yeah.
now it's like we don't even have rules like that anymore. Now we just bring our phone to the table and we're just on our phone. It's like, well, what happened to rules?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've lost sight of what is human flourishing, or we just think rules don't matter. What do you think about like some kind of rules, concrete rules for AI?
Yeah, and what I like to do today is kind of walk you through how I'm using AI because I think it taps into that. So we get away from the abstract into something concrete about
Yeah.
AI. But I would preface to say that's the search I'm in. I think one of the things to understand. So Tristan Harris had another gentleman called Joe Edelman. He was very good about metrics, and he talked about um, the incentives. So they understand that these companies, technology companies, work on incentives and they build metrics and objectives. And in the social media era, their main metric was your attention. So it didn't matter what you ended up sort of gaining from it because there's benefits to social media, right? Like you can talk to your parents, you can talk to friends from out of from school that you no longer live close to, or these things, right? That are very useful. But the problem is that they built a technology that was meant to maximize your attention on the technology. So from a Thomistic perspective, if you used it for the things you needed to get in touch with your family, to get in touch with your close friends, then you're okay. But what ended up happening is that it got us all addicted. And it had an addictive nature because that was the incentive of the technology companies. They wanted to get your attention. So the tools were designed to not follow the rules, not follow natural law. They were designed to maximize attention. And AI is not dissimilar. And then there's an economic incentive to be the dominant player, and so that's also affecting, and that's what Tristan goes on and about. He's got a keen eye for what the incentive is because that's his training. And so I bring that up because you talk about rules. I think we also have to sort of recognize that the game is rigged because the apps have been designed for a different purpose, and that's what's so hard about mobile phones, right? Like I have a 2 year old and a newborn, 1 month old, and my 2 year old is starting to become more and more conscious. So by my usage of the phone is starting to create needs for her to use the phone, right? And it's like, well, part of the solution is I shouldn't be using the phone, but I'm an addicted adult. I have issues with the phone because it's been designed to do that to me, right? And so there is a struggle where the rules are not enough. Like you have to also sort of learn how to disentangle yourself from the way that these apps actually unfortunately were designed for, which is to keep you in them. So it's a combination. It's all I'm trying to say of sort
Yeah.
of knowing what it was designed for and building your own rules and being able to hold them.
Yeah. And something you said a couple times is that like these things were actually designed
Yeah.
for this purpose. And I think, the way you and I see technology as like, okay, this is a tool to help me achieve some kind of a goal, right? This kind of like this worldview of ethics, that there are actions that we can perform which get us to a goal or not. That's not the way the technocrats who invented this stuff think, right? Well, even if they do, they see technology as a tool to make money off of us. But I
Yeah, there's an
really,
economic incentive. There's a business underneath it, and that business attention metrics are part of the business in terms of social
yeah.
media. Yeah.
But I feel like it's even bigger than that. I think I see this as like transhumanism, almost
Right.
as like, because I've seen these like science documentaries, and these journalists, they go up and they interview a scientist and they try to ask them these really edgy questions like, hey, AI, artificial intelligence, is that like a good thing or a bad thing? The scientists, they don't have an answer for that. They're
Mm,
like, I don't know, it just like AI, it's just here, it just is. It just got invented. And now the only thing left for us to do is to adapt to the AI, like to the technology, as
yeah.
if like we're on this evolutionary process. Like,
Mm,
okay, see how it's so foreign from our worldview of like, I am a human being, I have a goal, therefore I have actions which take me to the goal. They're like, no, there is no such thing as humanity. There's no such thing as a human being. There's no such thing as
right.
human nature. We used to be something in the past. Now we've evolved to what we are now, and now we're just evolving into the future. And the next big step in our evolution is going to be this merger of man and machine, transhumanism, and that'll
Yeah.
be the utopia by technology. And um, it's like they really believe that survival of the fittest is like, if you adapt, then you survive. But if you don't, then you become irrelevant. So it's like it doesn't even matter. There's no such thing as good or bad. It's just, here's the
Right.
new thing,
Yeah.
and AI happens to be it. And so now
Yeah.
we have to adapt to the technology. And I
Yeah.
see this, I see this over and over and over, that like the technology, the new updates, all of these things, it's like they're trying to get me to adapt to the technology. And I'm like, I don't want to adapt to the technology. Or AI, it's like on every platform, it's like it's being rammed down our throats. I'm like, I don't want to ask Meta any questions right now. I don't want to,
Mm,
I don't want to interact with AI. I don't want it to be there. Actually, if I could just delete it, I would. But
mm.
it's like, it's really like whoever is, and I'm not trying to go conspiracy theory. I'm just seeing the effects that like I'm being called to adapt to the technology
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than have the technology adapt to what I need it to do so I can achieve my goals.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that because I want to unpack. Basically, I want to get to the concrete because I think that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, it is true. We do have to adapt, and I am a big believer that we should. I mean, I'm a big evangelizer of that's why I want to distinguish. There's sort of like the landscape of what is happening in the world and why these technologies are the way they are and all that. And then there's the reality that they're here and we should adapt to them,
Yeah, and I
and
agree
both are
with you
true.
like, yeah, I agree with you like, to a certain extent we should adapt, but maybe there's a question of like how much.
Right, right. Well, okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my journey in AI specifically.
Yeah.
I started using the tools like everyone else when ChatGPT came out. I think it's been like 3 years or so. And ChatGPT, what it's sort of the beginning of it was what we call smart search, right? You ask it some questions and it came out back with answers. Maybe you even did as much as like I want like I showed it my car model and it came up with a quicker answer. Or I showed it a traffic violation in Europe and it helped me out with it. Like there are things like that and that's AI at its sort of most fundamental level, and I think that's the AI that most people are familiar with. And particularly back then, it wasn't as impressive, and the models keep getting better and better. But there's been layers to it, and And then nowadays with agents, things are getting next level. And I think that's the part that is least explored by people outside of the tech workplace, because agents do get more technical. And essentially, it's now we have the ability to task these AI agents with tasks, multitasking, going towards one objective, doing it in multiple steps at their own discretion, while we're asleep, right? And so it's another level of reasoning. And I personally, when there's different companies, the three frontier models are Google Gemini, OpenAI with ChatGPT, and then Anthropic with Claude. And for me, the big aha moment was when we as a company started using Claude. And in February, they came up with this feature in Claude called Cowork. And Cowork is more for the knowledge worker, so not so much for the technical worker. It's essentially a generalist agent, and that's been when I really like fell in love with the technology, frankly, because Cowork has become my buddy. And so I first started using Cowork for all my stuff inside Klutz, inside my company, in terms of automating briefings, and I gave it all my email data and my folders, and just really let it organize my situation, but also let it get it contextualized. And one of the beautiful things about Cowork is the way it works is that you actually set it up with a folder, a local folder in your computer, and you are allowed, and it's sort of all its memory about you comes from that folder. So the root file is called claude.md. And then it builds basically MD files, which are markdown files, which are essentially text files. They're very simple text files. And everything you feed it that you wanted to get memorialized becomes an MD file of sorts. And so you start building an infrastructure around what you want the agent, the Cowork system to use to know about you through this folder. And you can write on it, so you have a lot of control, or you can let it write for you based on the conversations that you're having with it. And I started like doing that a lot for work, and it started to automate a lot of my tasks, and it started giving me a good like after a while, the when it would report, it has daily briefings for me, and all the emails that come in, all the conversations that I'm having with my colleagues now come within it, understand the context of what my deals are, what projects are in, what my cash flow situation is in regards to those conversations. And it starts connecting a lot of dots for me. So it makes my life a lot easier. It's meant to be your chief of staff. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. And this is where it gets interesting for this discussion is, I've always been, like, let's call me a wannabe Thomas, right? I have some Thomistic training. I had a mentor in university that gave me some pretty heavy duty Thomistic formation, but not formally. So I know a lot of concepts, but I couldn't pull them all together, right? And that's been like a life pursuit. So I actually started talking to Cowork about all of the different Thomistic things that I've tried to do. I'm very interested in applied Thomism, so how to make Thomism relevant to today, and how to make it more technology driven, and etc. And through that, we started building a very focused app, which right now I'm calling Scholastica. I basically am putting together a Duolingo for Thomas Aquinas. So I'll show you that. But I want to pause in case there's any questions. But I want to show you Scholastica, and then tell you like where that evolved, and so get a sense of what AI is doing for the good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, say more about that.
All right. So let me show you here. Share my screen. So this is the home screen of Scholastica. This is live now. I haven't finished the project, but it's on scholastica.io. This is all AI made. Now, I want to say that one of the things that at Klutz that we worked on, and that is a principle of how I'm building this, is that it's called human in the loop. So AI can crank out a lot of stuff, but you have to finesse it. And part of it is like whatever output it comes in, it's been reviewed by me, like it's edited by me. Like I didn't create these creatures, but they are through my direction. These are medieval drolleries. Part of the input that I gave AI is like I want Chestertonian wit and I want the medieval humor, but I also want, Thomistic knowledge. And I was also very precise about the kind of Thomistic knowledge that I want. I wanted to come under Leo the 13th Eterna Patris. I wanted to have, strict observant Thomism at the top. I wanted to follow the line of John of St. Thomas and Cajetan. I wanted to be, in the relationship between essence and existence. I got into that and what it means and what kind of relationship I want. And the whole story arch is under that. But I also said, I want a very basic formation because I myself need to strengthen my language. And so this is the beginning of it. So it tells you, Aquinas built the West's most precise vocabulary for thinking about what is. 8th centuries dulled the language, not the thinking. Scholastica is the way back in. Essentially, what I found as the big problem with Thomas is that his language is so outdated, that we can't grasp onto it. And so this is meant to go from day one, like you're a modernist who wants to learn Thomas. This is a gamified version of how it works.
Wow.
Um, and so when you dive into it, it takes you into the first module, which starts going into right into it, right? Like essence and existence, and it says begin. Like it has a little bit of Latin, so it's got all of this was built with AI, and you can see some of those, the famous AI dashes. But again, I've now curated all of this and made sure that it's all right on. And I got a total of 18 modules. I've only built three. I'm in process of building number four here. And I built it in an order that it could sort of get a sense of that it can build the whole thing. And we have sort of an outline for everything. Um, but yeah, now, so we have the logic module built in, natural law and the human act. And it's all going towards this existential Thomism debate to sort of put essay at the top, but with the nuance distinctions that Thomas need. But it's starting with a very basic, look at an apple sitting on a table. When you ask what is this, you're asking, and then what kind of thing this
Hmm.
is, right? And so then lets you know that you're right, like in a Duolingo style,
Wow.
and you keep moving. So this is now live. You can check it out. And by the way, Ed, when I am done with all 18 modules, I will really want people like you to help me out, finesse
Yeah.
it and stress test it. But I believe this is the first thing of its kind, like I don't think this would have been possible by a single person without AI.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I would love to look through that. Um, okay.
I just threw a lot at you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm processing it. So that's super cool. That you can use AI to build that. But it seems like the way you use AI versus the way a lot of people use AI is different. It sounds like
Yeah,
you're using AI in a good way because you're already a person who can think and you have a plan and you have the creativity and now you found out that this tool is very useful and you can use it for your goals.
right.
And then it,
That's
it's
right.
it's a tool to help you achieve what you're trying to get to. I think a lot of people don't know how to use AI, and so they end up they don't have any ideas, right? So that's the difference. You have ideas. You're already a person who knows how to think, and then now you're using this tool to help you build the things that you want to do. A lot of people turn to AI because they can't think,
Yeah,
and so they want AI to do the thinking for them. And
yeah,
I say that's a crying shame because what's going to happen is people are never going to learn how to think. You know, oh yeah, so I think you saw this. I said that I saw this ad online and it was like being able to use AI is a critical skill for the future. And
yeah.
I was like, I mean, sure, you can learn how to use AI, but I mean, being able to think is going to be a critical skill for the future because
Yeah,
if
100%.
everybody's using AI, especially low information, right? People who haven't learned how to think, and you say, "Oh, here, have some AI, figure it out." Like, I mean, when we teach kids in school, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
We have to teach them. how to add and subtract before we give them a calculator.
Mhm.
Because if we give them a calculator, they'll never learn to add or subtract, and they won't know how to use a calculator.
Yeah,
So it's like we can't just give AI to people and say, run free. Like we have to teach them how to think, how to be creative. And being able to think is hard. It takes discipline. And
yeah.
even being creative, it's a skill we have to learn to develop.
Correct. Yeah, no, you brought it. That's spot on. And look, even within technology circles, they do say that the careers of the future will be the people that are creative, the people that are good at taking orders, and execute somebody else's idea. Those people are going to have harder trouble finding a job in the future. And that part of creativity is being singled out right now as like if you're very creative, you do very well with AI. And if you're sort of a take orders, don't want to turn your brain off while you're working, your job is probably not going to be there for in a little while because AI can replace you. So I think you hit it. So the way I'm thinking, I'm grappling with these questions is really about my kids, and
Mhm.
I'm thinking about how to educate them. So that's actually the other use case I want to run by you is I we are my family my wife and I are figuring out where we want to live. We don't want to raise our kids in Los Angeles, and we're thinking when they're of the school age, so in about, my toddler is 2, so in about 3 to 4 years, we gotta move somewhere else, right? And that's how we're thinking of it, and we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out, whether we move close to a school or move to or do homeschooling and so on. So I started using Claude to build a homeschooling curriculum, or actually, honestly, what I did is I fed it all the options, all the places I want to live, the why, the parameters, and so it's helping me in everything. And one of the things we started building is a curriculum, and we're doing two things. One is we're building an app for my kids to learn, and sort of like Scholastica, but now applied to basic education. So I think we start at 3 years old was the idea, which is pretty young. And then as we build the curriculum, the, Claude actually said, like, there's a tension with what you're doing because you're trying to do screen formation when a lot of what you're doing is offline. So now we have an offline curriculum that it's being built, and technology is meant to be very small. So I'm saying all this because you're talking about you're asking the right questions, and I'm just sharing that in what I'm exploring what does the future of Catholic education look like,
Yeah.
so that we can prepare our kids for this. So I can share with you where I'm at. I'll share you with you a few tidbits.
Yeah.
And they might get at these answers somewhat. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to share with you. This is a file, an app called Obsidian. Without getting too nerdy, this is a tool in which you can all those MD files that I mentioned. They're all in here. So this is my work folder. This is my personal folder, which I call Philosophy OS. This folder drives all the other folders, but all of this is the context that I feed AI. This is literally all the content that my Claude reads in order to know about me, and I can write on it myself, or it can write it for me. And we're here on a file that is called Technology Information, which is part of my family folder in my Philosophy OS, talking about education, right? And so one of the things, and this is cranked out by AI, but AI Claude reminds me that the Thomistic order of human existence is first being, then knowing, and then acting. And so it's building my curriculum on that order. So a child's relationship to the world has to be ordered towards being, wonder, before it's ordered towards making tools. If the child is given screens as their primary mode of engagement with reality before contemplative formation lands, the screens become ordering principles, not tools.
Oh,
They shape what kind of being in the child is becoming. This is all AI, by the way. So
wow.
if you build it with your real thought in mind, it can serve you well, right? So we've and also I also share attention, like, hey, I use Claude for work a lot. Like, So it talks about the parent-child asymmetry on technology and how that's okay and what that means. And it's put together a curriculum for me. So I'm going to go here into the pre-grammar. So it's sort of saying heavy contemplative formation, uh, but formative dominance is non-screen experience. Candle prayer, saying song, mass, story time, the home altar, the noticing walks overwhelmingly dominate the child's lived day. One of my favorite anecdotes of what Claude helped me is it it was like, dude, go build an altar, go and when we pray the rosary, light a candle. And I didn't know that. And now we light the candle and it made a heck of a difference, you know? And it's like, wow, how beautiful. And so it's like, I don't think people are aware, right? That AI can help you set up a more sacred environment in your own house. Like that's not the use case that we're being told on TV. And so that's where I do want to evangelize that the tool can be pretty powerful. And so I'm very honest about where I'm at. Unfortunately, she's watching a little Bluey, which is TV. But we are now putting the candle, and we are building an app for her. But it says, 5 to 7 minutes a session, max. Sometimes, not even daily require. The candle, the home altar, and the parent reading aloud remain dominant. The app is a small representation that points back to the home. It is not the home. And so now these are hardwired rules in how I'm going to educate my kids, right? Obviously I can change them, but this is where we're at, right? And this is all in process, but so far I'm building it so that all of I'm seeing the future. It's helping me think about where it goes. And at one point, um, it does say, real engagement with technology begins at ages 10 to plus. By now, the kids have the contemplative formation to order the technology. Now they begin to inherit what Arturo actually does for a living. And so it's saying real coding potentially taught by R2 or a Catholic aligned tutor, real making, 3D modeling, music production, etc. So it's helping me figure this out. I believe, and this is what I hardwire into this thing, that let me see here, the polymath disposition and the AI age. So the maker disposition is this idea that we can sort of be trained in liberal arts, but still have a base maker's disposition. And the AI sharpening what is and what is not being commoditized. So it's not about the technical side, it's about being able to use this tool with intent. So all of this is there, and I put a model of a person that I like because she happens to be a neuroscientist that is also an opera singer. I'm like, I really like this combination. I feel like this is a career of the future. And actually, its response to me was like, "Oh, that's very Catholic," and a lot of Catholics are like that. Like J.R. Tolkien was a linguist, but then he was also a writer, and we have scientists that Thomas Aquinas has made huge contributions to science and economics, but he was a theologian by training. So it sort of say like, yeah, that's the Catholic gift. So I'm putting all this curriculum together with the help of AI, and I also put all the flavors of Catholicism that I'm being inspired in, but I'm able to blend the prayer life with like Montessori, mathematical rigor, and then sort of bring where the AI fits and all of that. So the tool is very helpful. That's what I wanted. I wanted to bring these examples because you're right. It does need formation, but I hope that a lot of, that our audience, our fellow parishioners, and other Catholics do have some of that formation. Don't just run away from the tool because the tool can serve you and your actual goals.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, how can we? Okay, yeah. So it's interesting that what you're describing is actually almost like a rule, right? Rules, framework,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
The way I think of rules is not as something restricting our freedom, but actually I like to say rules are tools. They're like things to help us get to where we're going, right? So that's why everybody on the street, we all drive on the right side. That's a
Yeah.
rule. We stop at the red light, we go at the green light. Those are rules, but they don't restrict our freedom. They actually make us more free because if there were no rules, we would all crash and die and we wouldn't get to our destination. So it sounds like you're setting up that structure, that framework
Yes.
for this, this education that you're seeing. how can we um how can we help people to set up some kind of a structure or set of rules for themselves so that they do obtain this um whatever it is we're striving for, human flourishing, as opposed to just getting sucked into the technology, kind of like we were saying earlier, as it seems to be designed to get us sucked into.
Yeah, I think outlets like this are important, and Catholics need to use the tools, show the tools, and share the rules. Like if you look at how to get into AI right now, it's primarily a bunch of influencers whose primary experience is content creation, telling other people how to use the tools. There's no Catholic out there doing this. It's
Right.
like what a shame, you know? And instead, what you see is Catholics making fun of technology. It's like
Mm,
this is not helpful for anyone. I think we need to be at the vanguard and we need to be sharing tips and we need to know what this thing is and it's not. By the way, the other thing about AI and this information that I'm sharing, that's why I'm trying to get very specific because I want to show to what degree you can control it, what you can actually tell it and inform it so that it comes baked with your meaning and with what you think is right. Because if you start putting all that framework and all that context, then AI can really help you. But if you just ask it low level questions and you let it like get you sucked in, you're going to end up in conversations that are not fruitful for you or your family, right? And then AI is dominating. AI is not conscious. AI
right.
is not a being, and AI is being designed to be as mediocre as possible. And what I mean by that is that it tends towards neutrality. The AI companies are terrified. They know they have a bad rep, and they're terrified of leading you astray or leading you to a place where you think of yourself badly. So
Yeah.
it's meant to please you. It's meant to make you a genius. It's meant to always say you're right. And so if you indulge yourself in all of that, then it's just going to be a yes person. By the way, this is why, unfortunately, AI led to some suicides
Yeah.
because it does tend to please you. And so if you're saying I'm depressed, and it goes, yes, I can see why, you know. And if you say I kind of want to think kill myself, I'm like I empathize with that, right? It doesn't. It wants to please you.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a sort of depressed mental state, like it's just going to encourage that, unfortunately. And so you have to we have to learn how to contextualize our AI so that we can use it responsibly. And Catholics need to be talking about that. I mean, and more about what that means and why.
Yeah, there's a book called who's it by? Joseph Pieper.
Mhm.
And it's called Leisure, the Basis of
One
Culture.
of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so the whole idea is if we have to work with our hands all the time just to make enough food so that we can live and not die, then we don't have any time for actually culture. We don't have any time for developing our skills and creating beautiful art.
Yeah.
But if we can if we can automate some of those tasks, then actually we have a lot of time on our hands to then develop ourselves as humans so we can flourish, so we can create beautiful art and write works of philosophy and stuff. Um, but yeah, what's strange, what I noticed today, even before AI came onto the scene, was that we live such comfortable, luxurious lives. We have so much time on our hands. Um, And yet, what do we do with the time that we have on our hands? Do we use it to like learn a new language, to learn a new, learn to play the violin, learn a new skill, um, create some beautiful works of art? No, we just fill our time with entertainment
Yeah.
and pleasure seeking. It's like we have to tell people there, guys, there's a goal. We're not just evolving, in some transhumanist, never-ending cycle of, you know, not even being able to figure out what we are. We got to understand what we are and then realize that we have a goal and that so happiness is something that you have to strive after and get. Um,
Yeah. Well, I think so. I'm going to try to synthesize something here. Our Catholic tradition comes from Dante, Chesterton, Gothic architecture, Thomas, like great thinkers, great artists. Um, that's not around today. That's the unfortunate truth. I'm looking at, I'm not like, by the way, I think this company is wonderful, Formed. There's a company called Form, which is like the Netflix for Catholics. I'm like, oh, great that there's at least something out there. And I think traditional Catholics, there's another one I forgot, but it's new and it's trying to
Um,
be the same thing.
Pelican Plus.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And great. I mean, love the fact that they exist.
Mhm.
But the quality of the stuff is just not there,
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, like the animations and the songs, like by the way, Pelican, I know Pelican's mostly podcast. It doesn't have uh, as much content. It's just new, so I don't want to critique it as much. I Form had a lot more, and Form licenses a lot of previous stuff, so it has some stuff that's actually pretty good. Like I love the Teresa of Avila show from the Spanish TV channel in the 80s. That's really good, but it's from the 80s. It's got cartoons that I think were made in the 70s, So it's got more content and some of it is good. But some of the new stuff, like the Brother Francis animations that I saw for kids, it's like, oh my
Oh.
gosh, really bad quality, really just we are behind. And I think
Mhm.
I want to acknowledge that because that's why when you look at Netflix and Disney and when you look at modern art and technology, it's just better. I'm not saying the content is good. I'm not saying the substance, but the form is phenomenal. Our artists are not, we don't have it live in Chesterton, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no Dante roaming around right now. It doesn't feel like it, right? And so I think you have a society, we're in a society that's been secularized, and Catholicism, like, thrives on the seasons, on the liturgical year, but also on art and wonder and stories. I'm not going to claim Narnia, but kind of, right? Like, okay, it's Anglican, but it's kind of ours. And Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, and that's us. That's our culture. And as I try to live that in my household, I find it's really hard because I'm in a secular society with better content being presented to me with different substance. And so it's a big tussle. So I want to say all that because I think I sympathize with where the modern Catholic that's trying to stay being a Catholic because their options are stick to only old stuff and not acknowledge modernity or blend it with modernity and be so confused about it, right? Because it's some of it is so counter, it's so anti Catholicism, I mean, at its substance. So it's like, how do you find those integration points, And just like when I watch Blue, and I think Blue is pretty benign, but I'm still like, I'm like watching like I did. I'm expecting to catch something bad, right? I'm like
Mhm.
every show, every episode, I'm like, what is it going to be? What do you mean by that? Because you're not safe. We're not in a safe environment. So I just want to acknowledge how hard it is to be a regular Catholic trying to figure this out on your own. And what I'm finding empowering about AI is that it's helping me figure some of this stuff out and give me a plan so that I can build an infrastructure in my home that allows me to build a life of good entertainment, and
Yeah.
and that's why a lot of what I'm doing is content and thinking about where the content is. Like I have one file just like where I'm it's a very pragmatic file. It's like I have this kind of TV and I have this kind of subscription service. What are good shows for my kids to watch over the time? What are good shows for my wife and I to watch? Because we like stories. So that's sort of my response to the critique of where we're at because yeah, it is on us, but I also empathize very much with why we're there. And part of what I'm finding empowering about AI is my ability to get more on top of it than ever before.
Mm.
Because it's helping me plan, it's helping me think. I wish we had an environment that would be there by organization, but we don't.
Do you think that we can use this this tool of AI um, so that we can, like Joseph Pieper says, leisure the basis of culture. If we can use that to automate more of our tasks, then we can have more time on our hands, or maybe we can even use AI to then actually um, not to flourish in like in the uh, in the what am I saying? Not to flourish in the man union with machine,
Mm.
transhumanism, but could we use this as any other tool to just help us then, if we have more time on our hands, then we could become better?
Not only because we have more time in our hands, but what AI is enabling us is for non-technical people to have a technical partner, for non-creative people or non-creative expressive people that have creativity in their heads but haven't been able, like they don't illustrate or they don't animate, they now have a creative partner, right? So you can now it's empowering, uh, people with any leisure to use it for the good. And what I hope to see is a flourishing of great content. By the way, like in Facebook Catholic groups, you do see certain people that are a little more on the technical side, but they're coming up with like prayer apps and things, and that they're using AI that they couldn't have done it before. Scholastica, I plan to distribute it for free, and I think that there's going to be more and more Catholics that are going to catch on to that and make more content. I'm hoping that when the Brother Francis team, and not to rag on Brother Francis, but when they sort of get into AI, their quality will be up because part of it is budget, right? Part of it is production budget. Well, AI is lowering those barriers. It's content and software technology is going down in price by a significant amount,
Mhm.
and also and there's less need of creative and technical skills in at the lower ends of the production spectrum, which means that more people that don't have those skills but have ideas can execute. And I hope that we see a flourishing of that in the Catholic world.
How can we make sure that we use it for the flourishing, that we use it for good, and that we don't use it for bad?
Content, give it like the beautiful thing of the way these systems are being designed, at least Claude specifically, but there are others that are going to emulate it because Claude is becoming very successful. Is that they give you control over its memory. Build it, build a good memory, build what's called the harness. So the core of how AI, you train your AI to think, should be modeled by you and your values, and there should be Catholic values.
Hmm. Any other dangers?
Oh, there's a lot of dangers, my friend. And like to build Scholastica, I've seen it drift. Like I've seen it make mistakes. I've seen it drift. You always have to be on human in the loop. Human in the loop is the best thing. I think it's hard. It's going to be hard to sort of come up with a list of dangers because there's so many. But I think it's more about the attitude. And if the human's always in the loop, like if you're always there as a critical thinker on top of it, you can make wonders. So I don't know, like for the people that want to tune out and use it, tune out, that's a different problem. I think we can, that's a whole conversation unto itself. I really want to do a call to arms for the people who do have their heads on that this tool is powerful and can help you.
Well, it sounds like you're about that far away from writing the textbook or getting AI to write the textbook
That's right. That's right. It's a co-working.
on
It's a co-working.
how Catholics can use AI virtuously.
Yeah, yeah. That's my passion. And AI is helping me do it faster. So I'm very happy about that.
You want to do one more question?
Sure.
Okay. St. Thomas Aquinas, if he had Claude, would he use it?
Oh, oh my gosh. That's a great question for Claude. Um, Yeah, I think, and I've been like one of the things I did. I'm big into music. I like secular music. I'm very big into it. I actually like Claude said my main genre is psychedelia, and I asked it like, what would Thomas Aquinas think about this? And he was like, well, there's some things he would like, but the psychedelia dissolves into nothingness. I don't think he would like that, right? So what I've learned about asking those type of questions, I think Thomas is always very nuanced. So he would like a lot of what I do. So I don't think he would reject my music taste straight on, but he would make a lot of qualifications and nuances. And I think he would do the same with Claude.
Okay. Well, Arturo, it's been great. Thanks very much for coming on and talking to us about AI. I hope we can do more of this in the future.
Happy to. This is all very like it's so young and it's so new and it's taking over the world so quickly. So maybe in a few weeks or in a few months I'll be saying something different. But for now, yeah, hop on the train and try it. There's something interesting happening in the world. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
Thanks a lot.